So the book called Eco-Business, Big-Brand Takeover of Sustainability, is a book I co-authored with Dr. Jane Lister. And Eco-Business is trying to understand what the world's biggest brand companies, companies like McDonald's, like Nike, like Walmart, like Coca-Cola, trying to understand why they are now claiming to be pursuing sustainability in such dramatic ways. So for example, they are promising things like zero deforestation, zero waste, zero carbon footprint. And what we tried to do in this book is understand why they were making those promises, particularly trying to understand why they're making those promises since the global financial crisis of 2008. It seemed counterintuitive to us that they would suddenly be investing in sustainability practices and sustainability programs. So the very initial question is, why are they doing this? Then we started to try and understand why are they competing against each other to position themselves as sustainability leaders, and then trying to understand why they are now claiming very dramatically that they are world-leading companies on sustainability. The second part of the book tries to understand what the consequences of these new promises are, and in particular, trying to understand what the consequences of these new sustainability programs are for environmental and social conditions. And the book looks at both what we see as some prospects that come from these new promises, as well as fundamental limits to what we see in this type of sustainability. And the fundamental argument of the book is that these eco-business practices are doing some good. They're leading to reduction in things like waste in the supply chain. They're leading to more recycling. They're leading to energy savings per product produced. And they're doing that in particular by pushing these practices through very long and very complex supply chains. So in that sense, we see some positives here, again emphasizing per product being made. At the same time, however, the subtitle of the book, A Big-Brand Takeover of Sustainability, is the fundamental argument here, which is this is sustainability of business, not sustainability of the global ecosystem, and not even really sustainability of local and regional ecosystems. They are understanding progress here in terms of products being produced rather than total numbers of products and total impacts. So measured at the level of one product is being made with more efficiency, perhaps more effectively, is very different from trying to say we're making progress in this overall quest to tackle global environmental problems. So a real fundamental limit here is that big brands, these major world-leading companies, are redefining sustainability in business terms so that it's about driving more consumption and about driving more growth. So underlying all of this is a push for more, a push for more consumption and a push for more type of disposable consumption. And there's no difference here for these companies between producing one product and another. It's about improving the efficiencies of those products, not about removing some products or taking some products out of the system. So what happens is the overall net effect is actually increasing pressure on the global environment. Even as per unit improvements occur, overall impacts continue to rise. So definitely a lot of what's going on here is a rebound effect. So they're managing to improve the efficiencies of overall global production in this very diffuse production system that we have now. And they're taking that and reinvesting it in basically encouraging consumption of increasingly, you might even call it wasteful consumption. So for the individual consumer, I mean, one of the very important take-home messages of this book is to be very strategic about choices and to think carefully about what products they're actually purchasing, because we are making progress in some products. So purchasing something that has a very short shelf life, that's made from plastics, that's going to be disposed in a week or a month, is very different from trying to buy something that is going to last a long time, that's durable, that you feel you're going to keep either for yourself or for your family for generations. That type of consumption we absolutely need to encourage. But this kind of dramatic increase in branded, wasteful, disposable consumption, I think a consumer can think very carefully about what choices are reasonable and what aren't. The other thing that is occurring as these big brand companies are pursuing sustainability, they're trying to actually gain more control and more understanding of their supply chain. So some of these companies have as many as 100,000 suppliers. Walmart, for example, has over 100,000 suppliers. And so by putting in place sustainability practices, audits, and certification programs, and supplier checklists that they have to follow. This is actually allowing these companies to have much better understanding of where their products are coming from and how they're reaching the store shelf. One of the values for the consumer of that is that it's now increasingly possible to provide labels and even potentially some eco-labels, some certification assurances that products are coming from better sources, at least compared to other products. This helps consumers, again, make better choices because they can go to the supermarket, they can go to even a large retail store and think more carefully about the purchases that they're making. Many consumers have no idea what the impact of their products are, and actually many companies have no idea what the ecological or social consequences of their products are. These supply chains are so long, they're so complicated, they stretch so far that the most common outcome is that no one actually has much idea at all. And so by putting sustainability programming through an entire supply chain, that definitely provides some capacity to reduce that distancing effect. It allows consumers to have a much clearer potential understanding of where things come from. That said, this is not a perfect solution in that in many cases companies are not necessarily telling the entire story of where things come from. And they tend to tell their stories in ways that promote good feelings of responsibility, feelings of that the consumer is actually doing some good, which of course then encourages more consumption. And one of the real dangers here is that the attempt to try and connect, let's say, a consumer of coffee to the life of a farmer is that it's really about marketing and advertising. And again, this push on growth, this push on more, rather than a push on trying to be more moderate, a push on trying to set some personal limits on how much people consume in a day. So again, a lot of what eco-business is about, well, a lot of what this book is about is a tension that we see where there is some governance potential and some prospects here from eco-business, but there's also lots of dangers. And there's lots of ways this can be abused, and actually lots of ways this can make things worse, even as consumers think that they're doing better.